Do I say goodbye on BBC Radio Kent? 21 minutes to 4. I'm Erika North. Thank you for your company this Friday afternoon. And as always on a Friday, I like to chat to different people. I love having different guests on this show. But I've also giving it a little bit of a weekend feel. And I think my next guest, talking about art, is going to do that just a bit because this guy is pretty cool. His name is John Paul. He's an innovative artist who's created some unique artwork, released in a book that came out in October, by drawing over multiple locations in London and the South East, but without actually raising a spray can, because he's doing it all on Google Earth. Now, I must admit, my mind is a little bit blown thinking about this. So let's welcome to the airwaves John Paul, who's done this pretty cool thing. It's the first time I've ever heard of it being done. John Paul, where did you come up with this idea?
Hello, Erika. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
I came up with the idea because I was quite determined I was going to walk to Canterbury from North London, where I live. And then the lockdown happened in April, and I was going to do it in April. And so I thought, I don't really want to give up on that. I wanted to walk with other people and with friends and to do that pilgrimage thing where you talk to each other and share stories and things, just like Geoffrey Chaucer. And so I thought, well, actually, I can do it online. I'll just go on Street View. So I went on to Street View, which for people who may possibly not know, Google Maps is good for getting you from one place to another. But if you click on the place that you're looking at, you can actually sort of step into the world and see a photograph and then click down the road. So I realised I could click down my own road and then, well, why not click all the way to Canterbury? And I calculated it would take 22 hours to do the actual walking. So I split into 22 days of about an hour. I split the journey and I did it on Zoom with screen sharing so that other people could join me. So they were looking through my screen at the roads that I was passing through. So we did North London, Central London, South East London, into Kent, and gradually via Rochester to Canterbury. And it was brilliant fun. And that was great as far as it went. But every day I wanted to keep a record of where I'd been and what we talked about. So I would do a screen grab from Street View. And then because I've got itchy fingers and I'm an artist sort of person, I drew all over the screen grab. And because it was a pilgrimage and we were supposed to be going to a cathedral, I had biblical images in my head and I would draw often biblical images on those places. And I ended up with quite a lot of them. And that isn't quite the subject of my book, but the book is very similar. So the idea of places that mean something to us, stories that mean something to us, tying them up together with words and pictures, that's what fed into the book.
I think it's a wonderful idea and it kind of blows my mind a little bit, but it really is one of those circumstances where technology absolutely worked in your favour. And you could do it through lockdown. And on those occasions, you know, technology gets a really bad rap. But actually, in a situation like that, you go, actually, that is what it should all be about, and creativity as well. Why did you come up with the idea, do you think, at that time, before lockdown had happened, of a pilgrimage? And because even if you had been able to get out there and do it for real on your legs, it's a really long way to walk, and it would have taken an awful lot of effort and energy rather than jumping on a train.
It would have done. No, it's a really good point. So there are two main things that fed into it. One is that I studied English literature, and I always loved the Canterbury Tales, and I love this idea of sort of mildly competitive, friendly storytelling as you walk somewhere. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I had a breakdown at the end of 2017, which was as painful as people might want to imagine. But on the other hand, I wouldn't. No, that's fine. Thank you. But I wouldn't wish it away because it was my experience. I learned a lot about myself. And one of the things I learned was that my psychiatrist said I should get lots of exercise because it was better than all of the pills and therapy put together. And I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. But I didn't belong to a gym, so I walked all over the place. I just walked for hours, for months. And I would sit in churches because they're free to sit in if they're open. And so that's sort of partly what reactivated my interest. You can't sit in the sorts of churches that I was sitting in without seeing lots of storytelling stained glass windows. And that reminded me about how much I liked those things. So I thought that's quite interesting. And also, I think the BBC's been doing several series of pilgrimages at Easter or thereabouts. And they're non-denominational. They get people from all sorts of different backgrounds and they all walk together somewhere. So it is a big thing to take on. But on the other hand, I spent about a year just wandering around in the days anyway.
Well, I just think it's an incredible concept. What was your friend's reaction when, before lockdown, you came up with this concept and you were calling around saying, "Do you want to join me on this pilgrimage?" How long is the walk? Whereabouts in North London were you starting from? Just so people can envisage it.
Well, from more or less Hampstead. I'm not in Hampstead, but that sort of anchors it somewhere. So north
Lovely
of
part.
Camden.
I know that very part of the world very well. So you were setting off from there and
Yeah.
walking to Canterbury.
Yeah, I wanted to walk via my. I used to live all those many miles away in North Kensington, which is about 4 miles away.
Lovely.
But so I wanted to go that way, and then I wanted to go through sort of showbiz, central London, Downing Street, that kind of stuff. And then once I got there, I walked to where Stephen Lawrence was killed, because it's a pilgrimage is every mood, and I wanted in my book Psalms for the City, I wanted to have the permission, like in the Psalms by King David in the Bible. Wanted permission to cover every kind of mood and every sort of feeling. So sometimes I am quite given to being facetious and silly, but also, you don't go into a psychiatric hospital without occasionally having to deal with some really serious and painful things. So I wanted to have room for all of those in both the drawings in the book and the writing. And the same with the pilgrimage. It was sort of anything is okay here. We won't criticise. We'll just hear what each other has to say.
What are your favourite images in the book?
Oh, wow, that's really a brilliant question. One of my favourites actually is, there's a woman on the phone inside London Underground, and you can just see the lights of the train coming towards her, and you can see the blue light of her phone shining on her face, and everything else is pretty dark. I quite like that as a sense of the sort of subterranean. There's a little bit of menace, but it's also warm, and she's obviously communicating with something. I like that one. God, I drew 50 pictures. You know what? I tell you what, it's more important than any individual picture. When I was 14, I thought I was going to be an artist. Teacher put me off, and now 40 years later, I've illustrated my own book with 50 illustrations in full colour, and a publisher has taken me seriously and published them on beautiful paper. And to me, that is like a whole separate line of kind of brilliant rebirth, taking it seriously. Very pleased with that.
It's so interesting what you've done. As I say, the concept, I think it's going to stretch people's imagination in a good way. And I love the fact that, again, we all understand in lockdown, we all had to be creative to achieve what we wanted to achieve in those years. But this is that and then some. And I think it's brilliant that you've pulled this together and managed to do it. Do you plan, now that we're out of lockdown and you're able to, would you like to do the journey for real and get out there in your walking shoes and come all the way from North London to Canterbury? Because
I would love that. I would really love that. I just have to get my act together and actually organise it. And clearly this isn't the right time of year, but I've got time for next April, haven't I?
You definitely do. And I'm thinking, I'd love to follow you if you do this. BBC Radio Kent is the perfect outlet to get people interested and maybe join you for part of the trip. You'll be coming through Kent as a big part of that. And
yes.
I'm throwing open the invitation now. Please do make us the official radio station of this journey, because I think it's such a cool thing to do. And if you're going to end at Canterbury Cathedral, beautiful place that I'm very lucky is almost on my doorstep. I'm a little bit away from that on the coast. But, in fact, I'm going into Canterbury tomorrow. We take it for granted, I think, when you live near it.
Yeah.
Something like your book is going to make people see those sites that they see all the time through new eyes, because they're seeing them through your eyes. Yeah,
I really hope so. That's lovely of you to say so. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation, which I take very seriously.
Good. Well, I hope you do. And we'll swap. Before you go, you have to take my email address from my producer. And I'd really like you to, to become a regular. And because I'd love to talk about this. You've grabbed my imagination. And I hope other people listening are going, wow, that's a pretty cool thing to do. If people want a copy of Psalms for the City, because this is where it's all depicted, how can they get hold of it?
The book is available in all good bookshops. By definition, they're good bookshops if they've got my book. And if they haven't, then they need to pull up their socks.
So go in and try and get it. And if it's not there, ask them why they're not stocking it yet.
Yeah, or they'll just order it. That's the less aggressive version of it.
No, I like the aggressive one. If you're going to do it, go hard or go home.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely talking to you, John Paul, and very innovative. As I say, innovative really is the word, because when I first heard about this, I was like, wow, that is a pretty cool thing to do. And I'm so happy that you've achieved it and that we can talk about it now on the radio and spread the word.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on.
You're very, very welcome. And I hope this is the first but not the last conversation we've had, because it's only a few months away. And I'd
Yes,
love to hear of you walking through Kent and actually achieving your goal of getting to Canterbury Cathedral and seeing all those sites that are depicted in the book in real life. Wouldn't that be a cool thing?
wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. John Paul there, the author, creator of Psalms of the City in all good bookshops, as he says. And what a great way to, keep doing what you wanted to do, following your dream in lockdown when so many things were shut down. He really did think about it and push the envelope about what was achievable. And do you know what? He did it. And I think it sounds like a pretty cool something to unwrap on Christmas Day, maybe in your stockings, a little bit different. It is BBC Radio Kent. I hope to welcome John Paul back, and I hope to hear from you between now and 6. Text me on 81333. Start with the word Kent. Tell me who